Hello, I'm Stephanie Zacharias, and today I will be talking about my final action research paper. My final action research paper was about higher order thinking activities and how they could possibly help with reading comprehension. This past summer, I had the opportunity to teach summer school at an elementary school located in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I worked with students who have learning disabilities. For example, some are language impaired and some have specific learning disabilities. So after working with them for a few days and going over their IEPs, or individualized educational plans, I noticed that most of their goals for reading were the same. Read a text at their grade level or instructional level, and answer questions. So I decided to take my action research project that I did over the school year with my third grade students and test it on my second grade students. So what I did each day was model the 3 higher order thinking activities, which were 5-finger retell, thinking aloud, and graphic organizer. The graphic organizer component was probably the toughest part to teach to my second grade students compared to my third grade students who were used to seeing graphic organizers when they did iReady. So I modeled thinking aloud, which is asking yourself questions while you read, and I even paused and read questions and the story out loud as well, just to show them that it's okay to pause and ask yourself questions while you read. The next one was 5-finger retell. This component was probably the easiest one because they enjoyed using their fingers. They were very much kinesthetic learners, is what I figured out after doing the 5-finger retell, because the students, when they were answering questions, would either put their thumb up and say, this is the setting, these are the characters, the beginning, middle, and end. So I wanted to make sure that the graphic organizers that I used were similar to how the 5-finger retell was set up. Now that only happened in the beginning of the experiment. I just wanted them to practice and become aware of how you can either use 5-finger retell or a graphic organizer. So I have an example. It's like this. You have the character, the setting, beginning, middle, and end. And then to make it fun, you cut them out and then you have what they wrote. So this was done in small group, and the students really liked it. I made the readings be on their grade level, and I also was able to hear them read out loud, so I got to practice with their fluency and their reading rate as well. The main point of this whole action research project for me was to, of course, make them become aware of these higher order thinking activities, but also for them to be prepared for third grade, because they are going to take reading assessments, and they're going to have to read long passages on a reading level that may or may not be at yet. So I wanted to at least kind of show them the ropes, because I teach third grade students. So the major findings with my second grade students was that they preferred thinking aloud and 5-finger retell, which could seem understandable with the 5-finger retell, but thinking aloud I was a bit taken aback, because I myself as a reader prefer to write stuff down whenever I find something interesting, or do a quick 5-finger retell. Thinking aloud takes too much time, in my opinion, but it helped them understand the story. So that was also a major plus. The graphic organizer, why they didn't choose it, is probably because sometimes graphic organizers make you come up with your own thoughts. And most of my students, they could orally say what they wanted to write down, but when they actually got to writing it down and the spelling and everything to fill in, the graphic organizer really became a hindrance because, you're trying to get them to spell on their own and you have to sound out every letter in the word. So I would assume that that is the reason why they did not like the graphic organizer. Now this is different from when I did my action research project with my 3rd grade students. They simply enjoyed mainly the 5-finger retell. So, which is understandable because all my 3rd grade students loved to talk. So whenever they had the opportunity to talk, that is when they used 5-finger retell. Doing this action research project could really benefit for my teaching profession because, I work with students who have severe learning disabilities and sometimes they can't really write down what they want to say about a story and they just like using their hands. So any way for them to understand what they just read is extremely crucial because they're going to be reading for the rest of their lives and you need to help them quickly understand a story or even an article in science class because, if they miss one step, it could ruin something. So that's beneficial, and I've noticed myself using these higher order thinking activities more frequently. When I'm just simply reading an article in a newspaper or reading a book for my book club, I use thinking aloud. And I used to not like thinking aloud because, you have to stop and pause. But I found myself using thinking aloud and sometimes annotating or jotting down what happened in the beginning of the story. And if I haven't read the story in a while, I could go back and see what I wrote so I can just catch myself up. So, yeah. Also, with teaching and learning, I found out about these higher order thinking activities because I was at a faculty meeting and I was just so tired of, doing the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't working. My students were still confused about what they read 2 minutes ago. So I asked other teachers, and one teacher in 1st grade suggested 5-finger retell. And I was like, oh, okay, might as well try it. So I did some research on it. I found not many articles about it since it's a fairly new technique. So I did research and I thought might as well try it. And then I was going to use Graphic Organizer because they've been introduced to it since 2nd grade. And, they're just used to copying things from the text and moving it over to the Graphic Organizer. And they're not really understanding what they read. So I made my graphic organizers where I want you to tell me in your own words, and then you write it, and then maybe you'll understand the story better if I ask you a question about the story. So that was very beneficial. Overall, I liked doing action research projects. I hope to work with 5th grade students and use these higher order thinking activities because I've worked with 2nd grade and I've worked with 3rd grade students. And this year I'm teaching 5th graders. So if I have the opportunity to use these methods in my small groups, I think it'll be beneficial for them because it'll prepare them for middle school English class. And, this reading comprehension is one of the most important skills you'll ever learn in school. And if you miss the opportunity to really learn to understand what you read, then it's just going to go downhill from there. So I would like to do an action research project in mathematics as well. We focus so much of our action research projects in reading that we forget about math and we forget about science, because most kids are okay in math and they need more help in reading. So I would enjoy the opportunity to work with students who aren't doing that well in math. Thank you.